Hey, good morning, Cliff.
I need to organize all these wires on my desk. I actually bought cable management. I just haven't gotten around to actually doing it. So how you doing?
Oh, doing okay, man. How about you?
Definitely on a new level of high now, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Tell me about that. So, first of all, just real quick, do you have polls? I'm really
no.
curious. You don't. I still don't have polls. Boy, I am sorry. I really thought you would. I'm not sure why you don't.
It says your host can post questions here. So it's not showing me as a host, I guess.
Okay. I still need to figure that out. I thought I had that figured out. I thought I just needed to add you to the meeting, but maybe Vincent actually has to be the one to add you.
All right.
Boy, weird. Sorry about that. I
No problem.
really thought that would do it for us.
We
Anyways,
went fine the other day, so
tell me about how things have been going for you.
So, rhetorical question. You know what red team is, right?
What to say again?
Red team?
Yeah.
Out of the blue, don't know who this person is. A red team manager from Microsoft reached out to me to recruit me yesterday and is saying, hey, there's a position coming open. We want you to apply for it. And I'm like, wow.
That's awesome. Doing red team stuff for Microsoft, that would be, you get to do some cool stuff, I'm sure.
I'm just, let alone, it's like, I've always heard Microsoft doesn't hire directly. They usually have like, what do you call it? Hiring agencies. So that way they don't have to give all the benefits and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Huh. Who knows? Do you have like an interview set up with them or something soon?
Well, I reached back out to him yesterday. I reached out to somebody from our local ISC2 chapter that I go to, and asked him if he, because he's a principal program manager at Microsoft, and asked him if he could maybe find out a little bit for him, because him and the gentleman that reached out to me, I guess they're connected on LinkedIn. So
nice. Oh, perfect. Yeah.
I'm just like, and then let's see, Tuesday. Yeah, today's Thursday. Tuesday, I went to like 2 different seminars because I'm trying to learn how to brand myself, basically.
Yeah.
And I told people in the group, hey, I'm checking something out right now. I'm not going to share it with anybody because I like when I suggest something, it's of value.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I first want to check it out. But there's one place, and I'll send you a link to kind of what they show, but they do the branding, they do the website, they do the resume review, they do the cover letter, all this stuff. And the first 2 months are free.
Cool. Oh, very nice. That's helpful.
And even after the hour-long presentation that they gave, hour and a half, the presentation, the CEO stayed on the call afterwards and talked with me for like 20 minutes. I submitted my portfolio website, and within less than 2 hours, they're giving feedback and saying, all right, well, this is what we want you to do, blah, blah, blah. And I'm ready to start an LLC today.
All right. And did I hear you say new LLC? Did I mishear that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. What's that for?
For branding.
All right. Awesome, man. That's so cool.
and so, yeah, it's just like, yeah.
Things are starting to kick off for you a lot.
Yeah, things are just, they're doing more than a 180. They're doing a whiplash.
Oh, good, man. I'm glad to hear that. And you put a lot of work into that point. Yeah. Chris, good morning, sir. How are you today?
Good morning. Very good. Can't complain.
Good to hear. Let's see, Cliff, I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee real quick. Again, I'll be able to hang out for maybe like 10, 15 minutes or so as things drop off for training. Thanks
Sounds
again
good.
for helping out with this, man. It's such a huge
Yeah,
help.
no problem.
Cool. You're right there.
And morning, Chris. I heard Josh say you guys greet each other, but morning.
Morning.
Cliff, I know it's late, but check out the polls right now and see if those work.
Helps if I take it off mute. Yes, I do have access to polls now.
Awesome.
And the questions, do you have to post them, type them in each one individually?
Yes, it's infuriating. It probably isn't worth the time this late. I do want to open them up though to see if I add a poll if you can see it. I just haven't ever seen if co-hosts can manage polls together. So I'll try and paste one in, but at the very least I can now add you to polls in the future. All right. I ran into a problem with my Windows workstation last night and ended up having to reset the entire thing. So I'm having to log into every single app, re-download the apps, reset the profiles.
I actually locked up my system this morning by which was weird. I couldn't, it was just weird. Never had that happen.
Computers, man. I don't know why anyone in their right mind chooses to work with them. Well, good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Roshan and Rebecca. Wonderful to have you here this morning. Thanks for being here.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Welcome. Good morning, all.
Would you remind me where you're working from, Rebecca? I know you mentioned this last week or the week before, but I can't quite remember.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes. Where are you working from in the world?
Oh, I'm in Virginia.
In Virginia. Okay, excellent. Very nice. I lived in the DC area for a while and worked in Virginia. I love the DMV area.
So where are you now? I know this is kind of like a mixed pot. When I'm trying to send out salutation, I'm not quite sure if I should say hi, everyone. People might be, they're maybe in the afternoons, evenings, or whatnot. So it's kind of a little confusing.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've got people from all over around here. It's kind of fun. We used to be mostly U.S., but we've got people from Europe, Pakistan, India. I think we had a couple of people from Asia joining us. So we've got a group.
Australia, just saying.
Where was that, Sandra?
I'm in Sydney, Australia.
In Australia, perfect, excellent. Boy, we've got the four corners of the globe covered now.
Yeah, I think I heard some people also from the UK in some of the other sessions we've had.
Yes, yeah. I'm up in Montana myself, so kind of remote, a little bit colder, but yeah, it's a nice spot to be. I do miss the DMV area. There was a lot more excitement to do.
Montana's beautiful, though.
Oh, it is. It is.
So I'll give it a few more minutes before we get things started. Let everybody else, or let a few, I don't want to say stragglers, but for lack of a better word, get in the room.
So Cliff, I'm trying to pull up my practice questions here too, so I can test if that poll, if we can share polls. That would be nice to know in the future.
And I'll close it just in case that's causing issues on your side. Because I don't know if we can have it both open at the same time or whatever.
It's kind of what I'm curious about. Well, class, forgive us while Cliff and I are chatting here. Cliff is helping cover for me again today while I have some work training that I'll be going through. So he did a wonderful job helping me out on Tuesday too. I just need to say an extra big thank you to him for stepping up and helping me out with this. It's just wonderful to have someone who not only has had their CISSP passed here very recently, something that's more valuable than talking to someone like me who's been a few years, but someone with more industry experience and someone who's been a part of this group for about as long as I have too. So very, very grateful to have Cliff here. So we really appreciate that. And then we are working on practice questions and working on getting polls and things set up again. So thanks for your patience with the change in functionality week to week as Cliff and I kind of rotate right now. So right now I'm looking for practice questions. Who has some successes or failures or challenges or wins from the week, though, that I'd like to share? How has studying been going for everyone? I'm curious to hear. I haven't got to spend much time with you as I'm used to this week.
Well, for myself, I'm still studying. I'm trying to split, like, study in different formats, doing a bit of flashcards, practice questions, some of the training materials, like the videos. So I'm trying to give it a bit of a flavor, so to speak, because after a while it's very draining. So I've got to try and try a different format. And just another way to prove, have I really understood it? Perhaps if I do a quiz or a flashcards or something.
That's a great idea. Has that been helpful? Has that kind of made your study sessions more engaging, or maybe help reinforce things better?
Yeah, it's more engaging in a sense that because because it's draining also. So if I try a different format, then I'll kind of like it makes me kind of like think about it differently. Like if it's a flashcard or if it's especially quizzes, because I find that actually is a good way to test how much have I really understood. And what I've been reading or trying to make my notes. So it's a way I can kind of gauge my knowledge, how well I have understood it. And I realize if I keep failing, then I think, okay, I haven't really got it, so I've got to go back.
That's an excellent accountability for yourself. Yeah, good job, Sandra.
So that's my approach. But I'm on domain 1, so I'm still very new to this, everybody. So.
Well, very good. Very good. Well done. Yeah. I'll just as a note, let me find this here for you, Sandra. So I have not put a lot of work into this the last couple of months, but this is something we were working on for a bit, and I still use pretty much every week myself just for personal use. But there is a GPT that I made with the newer models. Their intelligence has been improving, and I use those sometimes for studying, less for practice questions and more if there's a concept I'm struggling with. I like to put on a set of earphones and have a conversation with it using the talk functionality of the app. So I can actually just talk through concept or ask questions of that concept a little bit more. And I found that's really helpful if I'm just burnt on books, burnt on flashcards, can't look at a screen, I just need to go for a walk.
Yeah.
So
Is that something you can put in the chat? Because that's like useful, because after the screen, sometimes it can be a bit exhausting.
yes, absolutely. Let me, I'm logging in right now to
grab
that.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Take it with a grain of salt, please. You know, it is AI, generative AI, but I have had pretty good results using it. And the rest of you, of course, are welcome to use this as well. I have used this for practice questions, not in the practice questions that we use in these sessions, but to help kind of make my own a little bit, just testing the waters with that. And it seems to do an okay job. But again, I'd always encourage you to double check. It's better for having a conversation surrounding a topic you're struggling on, if you need help with memorization techniques or to run through scenarios or examples. It's really helpful for topics that you're struggling on and just need to spend extra time on without looking at a book, another book. So.
No, excellent. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a question, Josh? The other day I started with the video, and then we started getting into talking about like some hash.
Yeah.
I brought up about SHA-3, and I found the video of the one author. And is it okay if I just share that one video also today?
Oh, that's totally fine, Cliff. Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
Right.
Your session, you're the boss. Excellent. Well, hey, Paul, good to see you on the call here, by the way, man. Great to see you. I was hoping to see Annette because I believe she took her, I think she took her test last week. I was hoping to get to catch Annette here. But if she does, please celebrate her with me. I'm sure she passed. If not, please be an encouragement to her. But yeah, I need to take off for some work training here in a couple minutes. But really good to see you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful time studying with Cliff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cliff, you're the man. I sure appreciate you. Holler at me if anything comes up, okay? Oh, just real quick before I leave, would you check and see if there's a poll that showed up for you on your end? Send in the future. I can have.
I will do that. Yes.
Oh, okay. We could share that. Cool. Okay, sounds good. Well, we know that for the future. We know that for the future. Cool. All right.
All right, I'll look at that while we're going through the videos, and I'll try to figure it out and see if I can get it working today.
Yeah, another time. Cool. All right, thank you, Cliff. Thank you, group. Love you all, and I'll talk to you next week.
Hello, everyone. Morning, afternoon, evening. So, like the other day, we're going to start with the video that he shared. Also, on Tuesday's group, I brought up some information about SHA-3 and variable length hashing that I found the video for, and I'll show that also. Then we'll get into the questions real quick. So if there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, let's get this stuff started so we can get to the questions, which I think everybody likes those best. One moment, please. Yeah. Give me one moment, please. My apologies on that. Yeah. One moment. I apologize. Getting used to some of this new stuff.
No problem. Thanks for taking out the time.
Well, it came up fine the other day, and today it wants to come up differently, if that makes any sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and close all the extra windows.
No, I get that. I usually use Teams. So yeah, Meet, I'm not too comfortable with Google Meet as well.
Let's see. All right. Nope, that's not what I want to do. Oh, there it is. But it's not, doesn't look right, but we'll go try this.
Exam. This is the first of 2 videos for Domain 5. Access controls are the collection of mechanisms that work together to protect the assets of an organization. These access controls can be both physical controls, like locks, and logical controls, such as login mechanisms to an operating system. Access controls enable management to specify which users can access what resources and what operations they can perform, and provide individual accountability. Fundamentally, every access control system is about controlling a subject's access to an object through some form of mediation. That mediation is based on a set of rules, and all of this is logged and monitored. This is known as the reference monitor concept. The implementation of the RMC is known as a security kernel. Thus, every access control system is a security kernel. Now, let's jump into the mind map. There are 3 major principles that we apply throughout access control. The first is separation of duties, to divide up key processes into multiple parts assigned to different people. Need to know is the concept that we grant a user the minimum permissions required for them to perform their role and no more. Least privilege achieves the same outcome, but from a different perspective. Least privilege looks from the perspective of the asset, the system, the database. How can access to an asset be restricted to only those who absolutely require it? When it comes to administering access to systems, the addition, modification, and removal of users, there are 3 main approaches: centralized, decentralized, and hybrid. In a centralized approach, access to multiple separate applications is managed through one centralized system. In a decentralized approach, access to multiple applications is managed individually within each application. Many organizations use a hybrid approach, which is simply some combination of centralized and decentralized. Now, let's talk about access control services. There are 4 major services that all access control systems must provide: identification, authentication, authorization, and accountability. We'll start with identification. This is where the user must assert their identity to the system. For example, my username is rwitcher. Authentication is where the system verifies the user's identity via one of the 3 factors of authentication: knowledge, ownership, or characteristic. Authentication by knowledge, also referred to as something you know, is where a user verifies their identity by providing some information they have memorized. It could be a password, it could be a passphrase, a long sequence of words that are easy to remember, lyrics from a song, a poem, or it could be security questions, like what's your favorite color of pumpkin? The second factor of authentication is ownership, also referred to as something you have. Authentication by ownership are things that we have in our possession. The most common form of authentication by ownership is one-time passwords. We call them one-time passwords because they are only meant to be used once. Hard tokens are dedicated pieces of hardware that generate one-time passwords, such as an RSA ID key. Soft tokens are apps, software that generate one-time passwords, such as the Microsoft or Google Authenticator apps that we can install on our mobile phones. There are two types of hard or soft tokens, synchronous and asynchronous. In a synchronous system, both the hard or soft token and the authentication server are generating the same one-time password every 30 to 60 seconds. They are synchronized. Asynchronous involves a challenge and a response. To authenticate, the user is sent a challenge, which they enter into their hard or soft token device, and a response is generated, the one-time password. Asynchronous systems are rare. They are more expensive and complicated, but they are more secure. So in high-value situations like, say, Bloomberg financial terminals, they are used. Going back to the other form of authentication by ownership, we have smart cards and memory cards. Smart cards are well named because they have a computer chip within them that provides some smarts. Memory cards, on the other hand, just store some data that can be read, the same data every time, less secure. Authentication by characteristic. The reason we call it characteristic and not just biometrics is there are two main characteristics that we can look at for authentication: physiological and behavioral characteristics. Physiological characteristics are what make up our physiology, our bodies, and are therefore often referred to as biometrics. It's pretty obvious what most of these physiological characteristics are looking at: our fingerprints, hand geometries looking at the overall dimension of our hands. Vascular pattern scanners are looking at our vein patterns, often on the back of our hands. When you take the CISSP exam, you are likely to encounter a vascular scanner, as many of the Pearson VUE testing centers use them as part of registering you to take the exam. They want to make sure that if you step out during the exam to take a break, that it's you coming back into the room and not someone you have hired to take the test for you. Facial scanners look at our faces. Iris scanners look at the colored ring of our eye, the outside of our eyeball. Retinal scanners, on the other hand, look at the vein pattern on the back of our eyeballs, the inside of our eyeballs. Retinal scanners are typically considered to be the most accurate of the biometric systems. Behavioral characteristics are how we act, how we do certain things, like speak, type, and walk. Voice systems analyze the way we speak, the minutiae of our voices. Signatures systems look at how we write, how we sign our name, for example. Keystroke dynamic systems look at how we type. Characteristics such as dwell and flight time, whether we use the left or right shift keys, all these things. And gait dynamics look at how we walk. A challenging aspect of biometric systems is they are not binary. And by that I mean they are not 100% sure that it is a valid user and not 100% sure that it is an invalid user trying to authenticate. As such, we have to deal with two types of errors related to biometric systems. The first is a type 1 false reject. This is where a valid user is falsely rejected. A type 2 false accept is the inverse. This is where an invalid user, say an attacker, is falsely authenticated and given access. Not good. The final piece here, related to authentication by characteristic, is the crossover error rate. Type 1 and type 2 errors are inverse to each other. If you graph them, you would see that the line for type 1 errors will intersect the line for type 2 errors. And where they intersect is aptly named the crossover error rate or the equal error rate. The crossover error rate is a good measure of the overall accuracy of a biometric system. We have now discussed the three factors of authentication: knowledge, ownership, and characteristic. Single factor authentication is simply using one of these characteristics. Multi-factor authentication, however, means using two or more different factors of authentication. The authentication assurance levels is a model for measuring the robustness, the security of an authentication process. There are three levels. AAL level 1 is the least secure, and moving all the way up to AAL level 3, which is the most secure, the most robust. Now let's talk about authorization. This is where we define a user's specific access within a system, what they are authorized to access. And this is where we apply principles like least privilege, need to know, separation of duties. The first access control philosophy is known as discretionary access. And the defining characteristic of discretionary access is that it is the owner of the system that is deciding who is authorized to access what. This is a very good security practice, as owners best understand their systems and are accountable for the security of their systems. Within discretionary access, we have rule-based. It's just a list of rules within a file or an access control list. Bob has access to this printer, his home folder, etc. Role-based is where we create roles, define the access for those roles, and then assign one or more roles to a user. And attribute-based, or sometimes referred to as context-based access. This is where we look at a series of different attributes to make an authorization decision. The source IP address of a request, the geolocation, OS type, browser version, classification of the asset being accessed, etc. The next access control philosophy is known as non-discretionary. Discretionary meant the owner decides, so non-discretionary means someone other than the owner decides who is authorized to access what, like an IT help desk person. This is not a good security practice. The last access control philosophy is known as mandatory. Mandatory means the system decides. The system decides based on the security clearance of the users and the classification of assets. Labeling is an important requirement for mandatory access. Accountability. The final and most important access control service is accountability. To have security, we must ensure users are accountable for their actions on a system. Because accountability is the most important access control service, we give it a special name, the principle of access control. So remember, the principle of access control is accountability, and accountability is the principle of access control. The final piece here is session management. Whenever a user identifies themselves, they've been authenticated and authorized into a system, this begins a session. And session management is all about managing these sessions to ensure they are secure. The major risk we are concerned with related to session management is session hijacking. And that is a summary of access control within Domain 5. If you found this video helpful, you can hit the thumbs up button. And if you want to be notified when we release additional videos in this month.
Okay, are there any questions on that? All right. The other day, let me stop sharing this. The other day, brought up SHA-3, and I found a video that I'm going to play quick before we get to the other questions that goes over it pretty well, I think. Yeah.
Cliff, what are you trying to share that? Just to
digital
confirm
signatures
something.
and digital certificates. Let me start by giving you the technical definition.
Pardon me, what was that?
All right, I was saying before you go ahead with the video, just want to confirm something from the last video. The crossover error rate is like a balance between the FRR and FAR, correct? Like a balance, right?
Yeah, it's where they intersect.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is to balance both, right? I don't know if I'm correct. To balance the FAR and FRR. I'm just trying to be clear on that.
The abbreviations I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. The first rejection rate and the first acceptance rate, right?
Yeah.
So the cross error rate is to balance both. I just want to be sure if someone can just help me with that. Like,
All right. Sarah?
Okay, so Kazim, that is not the goal that you have to balance them. It just shows that because both the curves, they go in opposite directions. So when you increase the sensitivity of the biometric scanner, the false acceptance rate goes down, but the false rejection rate goes up. And the intersection point is where both of them, they are like equal, or they're the same. What this tells us is about the kind of biometric device that you're choosing. For example, if you're choosing one which has a higher crossover error rate, it means that it is less accurate as compared to a device that has a lower crossover error rate. At the same time, when you're choosing the sensitivity level, you have to look at your environment. You don't necessarily have to set it at this sensitivity where you get the equal error rate. If you're using in a high secure environment, then you'd rather have some increased false rejection, but you do not want a high false acceptance rate. So you might make it slightly more sensitive. But if you're using it in a like less secure environment, then you would probably set it even lower than that point. So it depends on where you're basically going to use it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That was an excellent explanation. Rebecca?
Yeah, basically what I was going to say, it's just as she explained, it's your tuning as you would an application, trying to make sure that it doesn't go either way, accepting folks that it shouldn't and rejecting those that it should. But as the study guide states, rejection is a better thing, because then it's blind. It's better for it to reject everybody. It's better for you to have a higher rejection rate than for you to have a higher acceptance, because then those who aren't supposed to be approved would be getting in. And as she said, you're tuning. However, environment also plays into it, and the sensitivity of the data too, I suppose, would play into it. In a perfect world, you're trying the sensitivity or the effectivity of the scan tool, your biometric device, is great when the acceptance equals the rejection, but not necessarily. There's other factors that play into it. Again, just like she stated. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks.
And maybe to put it, and I call this cliff logic because I don't know the exact number. Say you're using a palm print, and the top end checks for 100 different aspects of your palm to match up, or it only checks for one aspect of your palm. The higher it goes, the more accurate it has to be to make sure they're all there. So that would increase the sensitivity, and you get to figure out where you want to put it and how many of those aspects are checked and verified before that person's allowed in. Does that help?
Yep, thanks.
All right. Let's go ahead, and I want to get this video started.
Definition of a hash function, and then I'll explain it to you piece by piece. A hash function is a one-way function that transforms a variable length input into a unique fixed length output. Now let's pick apart that definition. Hash functions are one-way functions. That means that you can't reverse the process of hashing. If you have content, you can use a hash function to calculate the hash value of that content, but you can't go the other way around. If you have a hash value, you can't use it to figure out the original text unless you already have a copy of that text. Hash functions map variable length input to fixed length outputs. That simply means that you can send input of any length to a hash function, and the hashes that it produces will always be the same length. Feed in 2 words or an entire book, and you'll get output that is the same length. That length depends upon the hash function, but it will always be fixed. Hash functions also produce unique output. That means that you should not be able to find 2 different inputs that produce the same hash value as output. For a hash function to be effective, it must meet all of the criteria that I just explained. There are 2 ways that a hash function can fail. First, if the hash function is reversible, it is not secure. Hash values may become public, so we don't want any way for someone seeing the hash value to determine the content of a message. The more common way that a hash function will fail is that someone will demonstrate that it is not collision resistant. That means that it doesn't achieve the unique output part of the definition, and it's possible to find 2 inputs that produce the same hash output. If that were the case, it makes it possible to forge digital signatures and digital certificates. Now that's clearly undesirable. Let's take some time to talk about some common hash functions that you might find on the exam. As you take the exam, you should be familiar with the details of common hash functions and pay particular attention to knowing which hash functions are still considered secure. Ron Rivas created the Message Digest 5, or MD5 hash function in 1991. That's the same Ron Rivas who co-invented the RSA encryption algorithm. MD5 was the fifth in a series of hash functions that became more and more secure. MD5 replaced the MD4 algorithm after research showed that MD4 was insecure. But one quick note on the name. Message Digest is just another term for hash. The two terms mean the same thing and they may be used interchangeably. The MD5 hash algorithm produces a 128-bit hash. Over the years, cryptanalysts discovered a series of flaws in the MD5 algorithm that chipped away at its collision resistance. In 2013, 3 cryptanalysts discovered a technique that breaks MD5's collision resistance in less than a second on a store-bought computer. Therefore, MD5 is no longer considered secure and should not be used. However, many systems still rely upon MD5 for secure applications, and that's not a good idea. The secure hash algorithm is another series of hash functions approved by the National Institute for Standards and Technology for use in federal computing applications. The first version of SHA-1, produces a 160-bit hash value. Cryptanalysts have discovered increasingly severe flaws in SHA-1 over the past few years and no longer consider SHA-1 secure for use. SHA-2 replaced SHA-1 and is actually a family of 6 different hash algorithms. The different algorithms of SHA-2 have different hash lengths, which include 224, 256, 384, and 512-bit hashes. All of the SHA-2 algorithms are mathematically similar to SHA-1 and MD5, and they're theoretically susceptible to the same flaws that broke those algorithms. Some attacks now exist against certain configurations of SHA-2, but the algorithm is still widely used. NIST recognized that the mathematical similarity between SHA-2 and those other insecure algorithms represented a future risk to SHA-2, and, thinking ahead, they began a competition to select a third version of SHA-3, in 2006. In 2015, NIST announced the selection of the Keccak algorithm as the SHA-3 standard. Keccak uses a completely different mathematical technique and can actually produce a hash of any desired length. The length is set by the person computing the hash, so Keccak still satisfies the fixed length criteria. It just allows the use of any fixed length output. Some academic researchers don't trust the SHA algorithms because of their origins within the US government, and specifically the involvement of the National Security Agency in the creation of the SHA algorithms. A group of Belgian researchers developed an alternative known as the Race Integrity Primitives Evaluation Message Digest, or RIPE-MD. RIPE-MD has 4 variants that produce hashes of 128, 160, 256, and 320 bits. The 128-bit version is no longer considered secure, but the 160-bit version of RIPE-MD is widely used, including in the algorithms supporting Bitcoin transactions. Let's take a look at how we can generate a hash ourselves. This is a website that allows the computation of a hash using many different hash functions. I'm just going to type in some input. We'll say this is a message, and then verify my settings. The input type is set to text. I'm going to change this to use the secure SHA-3 algorithm with a 512-bit hash. And then I can see the result down here. That's the hash value for the text. This is a message. Now notice, if I change even a small portion of this message, let's say I just add a period to the end, the hash value changes completely. There's no way to tell the difference between a large change and a minor change simply by comparing hash values. If I go back to my original message, I can notice this is also true if I change a capital letter to a lowercase letter. Let's change that capital T to a lowercase t, and the hash function that results is completely different. One of the uses of hash functions is in the hash-based message authentication code, or HMAC process. HMAC combines symmetric cryptography with hashes to provide authentication and integrity for messages. When using HMAC, the sender of a message provides a secret key that's used in conjunction with the hash function to create a message authentication code. The recipient of the message can then repeat the process with the same secret key to verify the authenticity and integrity of the message. Hash functions are used in conjunction with asymmetric cryptography for both digital signatures and technologies that depend upon digital signatures, such as digital certificates. I'll cover those in future videos.
Okay, so give me one moment. Get rid of this. So that's oh, hold on. There, sorry. So that's the Mike Chappell on the 2024 book. He's the lead author on the official study guide put out by ISC2. And I highly recommend his videos for self-study. So let me get the questions up. Was there any questions on that last video? And I'll launch the poll. And he's giving us what? 50 seconds, I believe. Mandatory access control is based on what type of model?
Oh, Cliff, I can find the poll again.
The poll is, there's like a triangle, a square, and a circle down in the lower right-hand corner. And then you click on that.
If you go under activities, you'll see, you'll find the poll.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I liked it better the other way where we put it in the room. All right. So anybody want to take a stab at this? What?
Well, I can.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, pardon me? Oh. Okay, so mandatory access controls is based on what type of model? C lattice-based model. So this is how I remember it. I have a quick kind of cheap way to remember how to do this. So lattice is always Mac, and Mac is always Biba and Palab. What is it? The Lapala one. So it's almost like every time you see a lattice space, the only thing mandatory access is actually considered a lattice space. So that's why I chose C.
Okay.
And just to build on that, I would always, if it said which Biba or Ella Patra, I can't remember.
I think it's Bella.
Yeah.
Bella Lapala?
Yeah, Bella, right. Whenever I see those two, they're always Mac and they're always going to be lattice. So that whole thing, you can just remember like 3 questions or 3 principles in one, actually, just knowing that it's lattice. If that makes sense to anyone.
Comes down to what works for you. Go ahead, sir.
Just going to add to that. So the lattice structure basically allows us to classify or assign labels to subjects and objects. That's how mandatory access works. And yeah, what April said, Bella, Padula, and Biba, yeah, these are the 2 examples.
All right. Thank you. And it is lattice based. And I'm actually going to go back to having people type their answer in the chat room. That's okay. So 2, a company is designing a new secure application and is looking to implement strong authentication controls. Which of the following is an example of a level 3 authentication model according to the NIST Electronic Authentication Guideline? And Rebecca, thank you for that. Yes.
I don't
forgot.
see the poll.
Oh, no, we're going to do answers in the chat room.
Oh,
Okay, Rebecca, why do you choose Bravo?
Process of elimination. So, authentication using one. Let me step back. Not sure of, and I meant to look at it the last time. The dictates of the NIST Electronic Authentication Guidelines, but D would be 1 factor. A is 1 factor. C is still 1 factor because they're both, it says 2 factor, but it's saying a password, which is something you know, a shared secret is still something you know. And so that's why I ended up with B.
That's good.
So that would be
Because
something you have at least.
yes, correct. And they said level 3 was the most stringent or most secure, I believe they said during the video. So yes, bravo. Biba is what type of access
I
control?
have a question about the
Sorry,
previous
go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, we covered in the video that level 3 is the most stringent when it comes to security. So if we have to choose like the options for level 1 and 2, what would those be?
All right. A single factor would be level 1. Oh, helps if I point to the right area. So authentication using biometrics, that's just a single thing, like Rebecca said, and also single factor is just a username or a password. A level 2 would be 2-factor authentication, but the way he worded this, password or shared secret, those are both the same thing because you have the what you know, what you have, and what you are. You know.
If I may, the confusion I think here is the leveling, because when we start talking about authentication types, those are, so what you know, knowledge is type 1, then there's type 2, and then the biometric falls into type 3. If one were being guided by that number 3, you're more apt to go for D. But that word there, level, is the difference. They're asking yeah, all these frameworks use different ways of describing things, which is where the confusion sets. So I believe one would have to know what NIST guideline is, but it's not talking about types of authentication here. It's talking about combining factors of authentication. And so when you're just using single authentication, single factor, I believe that that's one. And then when you combine two or more, then you go higher. But yeah, it's kind of hinky the way it's written, but I do not think that it's type. It's talking about type, factor type here.
Okay.
Esther, is that where you're going?
Yeah, probably. But you said it a lot more. You said it a lot better than I did. Thank you. I
I
appreciate
was
that.
asking the person who asked the question. Sorry, SM, what's your...
No, that was not my question actually.
Oh.
What I wanted to ask was that if level 3 authentication requires multi-factor, I'm assuming that the first factor was probably the password along with the hardware token. What are the requirements of level 1 and level 2, if anybody here knows about that, as
Yeah,
per the NIST guideline?
I think I can help. So this question is trying to trick you. Like when it says level 3, technically level 3 is biometrics. Like something you have is 1, something you are is 1, something you have is 2, something you know, something you are, something you have, something you know, or
Something you know, something you have, something you
something
are.
you are, right? So that R is the biometric piece. That's like level, that would be considered like a level 3. This question tricked me because I know the different levels and I still was taken back. So it's kind of tricky because if you read each one, A only speaks about obviously something you know. So you got to disconnect that one. And then when you go to C, it says 2-factor, and it is two actual individual things, but there's still something, password and a shared secret, something you know. So it kind of tricks you. So I hope I answered the question. So when you go to the multi-factor, it is happening given something, a hardware, like it gives something you have. So that's that other multi-factor piece that is missing out of the question. If this, you get me?
All right. And I searched it real quick, and the order that they're presenting them is something you know, such as a password, something you have, such as a smart card, and something you are, such as a fingerprint or other biometric method.
Right.
So-
I have to interject here.
Okay.
I have to disagree. I think we're still focused on factor types. You have to note here that it says NIST Electronic Authentication Guideline. Look at what I just posted in the chat. So that there, it's a specific question about a specific content in that documentation. For level 2, search the PDF. It will tell you what level 2 and level 1 are.
Oh, because that goes into level 4 further down. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. This is
Yeah,
excellent.
thank you, Rebecca.
Thank
I'm
you,
going to read into
Rebecca.
that. And I found out that level 1 does not require authentication.
Wow.
Yay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Rebecca.
Rebecca, you saved the day here. Thank you.
I'm finding that this thing is just crazy. I mean, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll read it, and then I'm going to just put a post for all these levels later during the day. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to read it too. I just opened it up, but I didn't think. And you know what? This is helpful. Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, it helped
Yeah,
clear
thank
up a
you.
lot of things. And I don't like to give out information that's erroneous. And yeah, I stumble. I'm not perfect. But thank you for letting me learn something myself today. I appreciate that, Rebecca.
You're welcome. We're all learning. I'm taking this information as I'm finding them.
And this is the thing. It's like, if we were to sit here and leave this and then we go to the test and we didn't have the correct information. No, thank you. I appreciate that. So, and I didn't do these questions. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not perfect. So, are we going on to the next question now? Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
I think we resolved that one. So, BIBA is what type of access control model?
Right. Now I gave you guys the cheat sheet on it. At least for what works for me.
Rashawn, why'd you go with alpha?
Hello. Yes, I just remembered actually. And moreover, as April said, she just gave us the cheat sheet a few minutes ago.
I mean, it never failed me, guys. I mean, every time I'm like that, that's an easy one for me because I can get 2 or 3 questions out of it, answers out of it. Like,
Yeah. Thanks for that.
mm-hmm.
So, Mac. All right. Question 4. Or were there any questions on that? Or are we good? Annette?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. I just joined in right now. It's been crazy at work. But the cheat sheet, April, do you provide it?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Did you provide the cheat sheet?
Oh, that was just like verbally. I was just saying that the organization, the way I figure this whole lattice and Mac and Ella, the 2 models, is I can put it in the chat. How about that?
Yeah, please. Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it just helps you remember this. You will get like 3 questions right out of just knowing that whole little thing that I figured.
Yeah, thanks. You created essentially an interrelationship between different subject
Yes.
matters.
Yes. You got it, Rebecca. Rebecca, you're on today. Yeah. Oh yeah, now I'll put it in there. Give me a minute though, because I'm actually working while I'm online as well.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's been crazy at work. I haven't been able to join till right now.
Yeah.
I've been up since 5:30 in the morning. What do you call it? I want to say, Paul, congratulations. I didn't get to tell you
Yes,
that.
Paul. Congratulations.
So, yes, Paul. Yeah. Also, I found a good mnemonics that I posted in the school CISSP.
Oh, sorry guys. I'm kind of listening in and working at the same time, but thank you.
Yeah, Paul is done with his exam. He doesn't need to participate anymore. We're
Oh,
hearing the best of
no,
him.
no. That's why I'm here. You know.
And congratulations.
Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you.
So,
And Paul, thanks for passing it and coming back and giving back to us. That I appreciate you for that. I just
Oh,
want
thank you. No problem at all. Not a problem.
but as I was, sorry, don't want to interrupt. I found a good mnemonics that I posted in the school CISSP posts on ways to remember a lot of these things. If anybody's had a chance to look at those. So, all right.
Yes, thank you for that, Cliff. I knew a couple of them, but that was a very thorough list. Yeah, I think I'm going to what do you call it, like mark it so that everybody can see that post. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people can definitely gain help from it. Thank you for sharing.
All right. Yeah, and I'll try to post it here in the chat room after this next question. How's that?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Which of the following is not a type of attack used against access controls? All right. Kazim, White Charlie. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. So I cannot think of access control, attacks against access control like getting unauthorized access. So I'm looking at brute force attack. This is where you try and guess the password. Dictionary attack. This is where you're trying to look for some words, pre-computer words, I guess. The man in the middle, like maybe being in the middle and stealing the correct credentials, but so I kind of just eliminate teardrop with that. Though I don't really know what teardrop is, but I understand ABD, so I kind of just choose that.
Process of elimination.
Yep.
And Sarah, yes.
So we covered this last week. Teardrop, that's denial of service attack.
Oh, thanks. I wasn't around last week, though.
Yeah.
Or maybe I joined late. Yeah.
Oh no, I was telling Cliff because he was also conducting the last week's session.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's how I remember.
Sarah, I think you're cheating. You were here last week, so.
Yeah.
Well, even from Tuesdays, because this is basically the same slides from Tuesday, and it's like there's stuff that I'm relearning today that I didn't remember from Tuesday. So, all right, so teardrop is the answer. All right. Let's go on to question 5. Or any other questions on that before I go on the next one? No. Which of the following is a client-server protocol designed to allow network access servers to authenticate remote users by sending access request messages to a central server? All right, who can tell me what radius stands for?
Remote. The R is remote. So that's the dead giveaway.
Yeah. Remote access dialing user service, I guess. The U is kind of confusing me. I think it's user service or something.
So, yeah, I believe it. Like he expressed, remote access dialing in user service. But
Actually, I think it's remote authentication dial-up server. Well, let me look it up here. Remote authentication dial-up server.
All right.
Something like that.
All right. Just because I'm going to make sure, because like I said, I don't like giving out.
I remember it off the top of my head. Yeah, remote authentication dial-in
user service. Yeah. So I'm going to start fact checking myself before I start speaking now. Any questions on that one? Why wasn't it OAuth? No.
OAuth is for authorization, not authentication.
All right, good one. And Kerberos is for?
Kerberos is basically a local in-house system. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not. It has its own authentication server and tickets that it assigns. It's kind of like a closed loop system.
Like Active Directory.
Right.
And it's in-house, never remote for purpose.
Exactly.
And I think it's used on the intranet as well.
All right. Well, All right.
Yeah, that's what was it Sandra? Oh, sorry, I can't remember who said it, but internet closed loop. So we're all saying the same thing, as opposed to external, which remote users would be.
Mhm.
When we say
Yeah, it
internet
was-
closed
go ahead.
loop, when we say internet closed loop, we mean more like extranet.
Think of it this way. The internet would be restricting you to your own network. So if you're a member of the HR department, or say company A, and you just have access to and can retrieve information that's available to everybody in your network, that would, and your Active Directory, so that would just be your Kerberos. However, this network access and the remote authentication thing here, I believe would be, say, if company A then merges with company B, there are two different networks, even though you're now one company, being able to hop from A to retrieve something in B, I think would then constitute this radius.
Got it. That makes sense.
And the word that I would probably use, and now I'm going to check on it later, is intranet.
Right. That was what I was thinking. I was thinking that, Cliff. I was definitely thinking that. I used the wrong word. I first said extranet, but I meant to say intranet. But
All right. So intra and inter. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so,
yeah. Inter is outside, wherever. Inter is within.
Internal.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. EAP is Extensible Authentication Protocol and is an authentication framework frequently used in network and internet connections. So that was the definition for Bravo.
By the way, real quick, I'm pretty sure some of you guys came across it studying that EAP. I lost a lot of time trying to memorize all the different EAP variations and just gave up on it. But I have seen it a couple times come up on the test, but I won't worry too much about it. I'm not sure if anyone knows what I'm talking about, the different EAP variations.
Yeah, it's a CHAP, it's a PAP, and
I think it's like 15 of them.
I was just reviewing it 6 o'clock this morning. I was going over, and for
Yeah,
some
I would say
reason,
don't-
I had a question.
I would say don't waste too much time on it because
Okay.
you know it, but I won't waste too much time on it, to be honest.
Okay.
There's PEEP, there's LEAP, there's
Right. There was LEAP, PEEP, CHAP, and EAP. This one, right?
Yeah, it's like 15 of them. Yeah.
I don't doubt it. So, all right. Question 6: when a subject claims an identity, what process is occurring?
Identification.
Yep.
Identification.
Rebecca, why Bravo?
Sorry?
You said B, so I'm asking why did you choose identification?
Yeah, so who are you?
I'm nobody. So sorry.
Yeah, wherever you go. Yeah, either your ID card, your driver's license, that's the first thing. It's the first step. So your identification.
Yes, correct.
For you.
I got a I got a little cheat thing on that too. You guys can hear it?
Please.
So an identification, like you'll see, I've seen test questions. I mean, practice questions. Remember, I'm going to take the exam, so I don't know. And Paul can help us with this. But did you see anything type 1 and type 2, or level 1 or level 2? Level 1 is like one to many. And one
yeah.
to Yeah, and one to many is always going to be when you go and try and identify, put your password into identify. You're identifying. You could be anybody. Like Rebecca
Exactly.
said, who are you? I could be Cliff, but until I'm able to authenticate as Cliff, then I'm really nobody. I'm not Cliff. So when you see identity, think of one to many. And then when you see one to one, then that's the match. That's authenticate. Now you are who you say you are.
Yep, you hit it on the nail. You definitely got to know that.
Gotta know that. So that's just something I went through studying these practice tests, and I'm just trying to brain dump on some things that I think can help other people if you're struggling with certain things that you might see on exams.
Cliff, I'd like to add something real quick as well. Just for to get ready for the exam. You really have to look at the wording in the question, because actually, I know it's identification, but then there's some questions, if they change the word, it could become authorization. But that's when you put in your password. I think the key word in this one is when a subject claims an identity, what process is occurring. So yeah, you just have to watch out for stuff like that.
Yeah, I believe that. Yep.
But like you said the other day, Paul, most of your questions were pretty short and to the point, right? Oh, sorry, Annette. I forgot about your hand. Go ahead.
No, Paula. No, you're good. I was gonna ask, April, when are you taking your exam?
Well, I have a tentative date in my mind. I'm not
Okay.
sure, but I don't really think I got it. I'm not confident enough yet.
Oh, you're great.
I feel like I'm okay, but I have anxiety, so but I'll get there, and trust me, I'll forget all of this.
Yeah, that's where I was. That's where I am. I have test anxiety real bad. So when I
Yeah,
get
so
there, like I just like I try to dump everything, and I'm like, okay, when am I? Yeah.
yeah, no. So it's no pressure on the call here, but when I get in front of, I'm like, I know nothing. So,
No, you're good.
thank you.
And I was gonna ask Paul. I'm glad you're giving your insight on the test, Paul, because I was gonna ask you what you went through on the test, like, or was it the same experience that Cliff had? Looks like it was.
I can't really speak to Cliff's experience. I know, Cliff, you mentioned it before, but I will say this again. This test has a lot of different flavors. They have a 10,000 question bank, or whatever you want to call it, or even more, that they can pull from, right? And the people that create these exams are not necessarily technical. They can piece together different parts of a question to come up with a Frankenstein type question. You have to know the material, right? And just try and decipher the question and filter it down to its least compound, basically, and try and find out what they're asking. But I took it 3 times. Third time was a charm. And I have an extensive network background, so you have to calm your mind, going in, and just try and relax and take it as it comes. But the majority of you guys, from what I'm hearing, are pretty much ready for it. You just have to study as much of the material as you can and try and decipher what the question's asking.
Yeah, that's the thing. Trying to and then trying to I took it when I took it the second time. It was time management. It's like, I ran out of time because I didn't manage my time right. So I took longer on the.
I will say this: at the beginning of the test, I was like deer in the headlights. Then I started answering questions. I thought I was way ahead more than I was. I looked up, I'd only answered 20 questions, and it was like 30 minutes had passed. I'm like, oh no, I got to step this up. Yeah. And then I got far ahead where I had like an hour left, and I probably had like maybe 40 questions or 30 questions left. I'm like, oh, I could take my time now. And so, try and gauge your time when you're doing the practice exams as far as time management, and you should be good.
I want to add something to that. I had a eureka moment yesterday, searching for something else and landed somewhere else. But it ended up being a very, very didactic, illuminating moment. So I put here a LinkedIn post explaining this CAT exam. Essentially, we focus a whole lot and we hear a whole lot about time management. It is good, but it's not the whole truth. So the exam, the way that they grade it and the way that the exams are polled, you got a whole lot of things coming at you. But the attitude that I came away with that we should go into this thing is that CISSP, so we talk about security and then there's privacy. Privacy is all of us, but we are essentially going to be representative for the business owner. So when they talk about think as a manager, you are being asked to be a delegate, a representative of the owner of the business. What is the owner of the business concerned about? Making profit, keeping his business afloat, keeping his business going for as long as possible. And so what is security supposed to do? Give protection to the infrastructure for that business at the lowest cost possible, but give the best security. And so we as technical folks, we want the best tool to do it. But is the best tool going to give him the best return on investment? Only the business, only somebody thinking as the business owner can do that. And that's what we should go into the exam, the mindset we should go in with. Not necessarily, hey, let me patch this database because of this. But would using a mitigating factor be in the best interest of the business right now than slapping on a very expensive patch? Then number two, this thing about the time. That URL that I posted there explained very well how the exams are done. So there's a mixed pot of questions thrown in. There are the beta questions, and then there are all these domains. And of course, they want you to think as the business owner. If you rush through because you're trying to complete 150 questions and go at it at a great pace, you might end up earning lower scored points. So they grade them differently. Some questions, and even if you look at the guideline, the exam outline, they tell us some have more scores than others, and they do that also even with the exams. Someone passed last week and she only completed 100 questions. Now, if we're looking to get 70, I think it's 700 out of 1,000, how does that compute with somebody who completed 150 and just passed? Because all we're told is you passed or you failed. There's no no computation shown on how that was done. So what's the advice that I came away with is focus on getting as many right as possible during your first 20 questions. It starts the gauging at the very beginning. So if you start flubbing, then it goes back, and all this while it's assessing how proficient, that's the word, how proficient you are in a domain. So I'm not sure what the magic is here, but just do whatever you can to get a good trajectory at the very beginning. this whole thing threw my study stuff out the box. Plus, last Tuesday, I thought I was ready for IAM, and I was failing every question. So, yeah, everyone just be careful. Like I said, there's no pressure, but it's not necessarily only about managing your time. It's about getting the tool to know that you are good at those domains from the get-go.
I like your explanation there, Rebecca. And there's a couple things you brought up that reminded me of some things I'd like to share. One of the other authors that I've studied under, he says, act like you're with the customer on a Zoom call. You're not there. You can't run over and start working on the equipment or anything like that. You just give advice and talk and communicate. So that's, and I know I didn't present that the way I wanted to. The second thing is, like, when you're expressing, you don't buy a $10,000 lock to protect a $5 product. So make sure that you're giving them the security they need at the best price. Well, best price. And I also just shared a video that I saw yesterday. It's like 9 years old, but it's still from ISC 2, and talks a little bit about the test. But I'm going to definitely read that link, Rebecca. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. That was awesome. That was an awesome explanation. Thank you. That puts me more at ease.
It's like their own special secret recipe that ISC 2 has. Nobody knows how they do that stuff. So next question. Alex is concerned about eavesdropping on the SAML traffic and also wants to ensure that forged assertions will not be successful. What should he do to prevent these potential attacks? Okay, well, A, use SAML secure mode to prevent secure authentication. Why would we want to prevent it? That's obviously an answer that's not acceptable. Bravo, Charlie, and Delta are left. Sarah, you said Bravo. Care to explain?
Yes. Yeah, because I think the TLS protocol, it covers like all these requirements, which is why I chose this. Like, since it's asymmetric, so the signature part that would be covered. There's authentication, so both like confidentiality and message integrity would be ensured. That's what I think. Could be wrong.
All right. And who wants to express why they chose Charlie? April.
For me, the reason why
Okay,
I
go ahead,
went for
Z.
okay. Yeah, so it says that it talks about eavesdropping on the network and yeah, sorry. So it talked about eavesdropping on the traffic. So I'm taking TLS here. Then it talks about forge assertion, right? You want to be able to verify that the traffic as it's correct, coming from the correct source, and that's digital signatures, right? I'm thinking certificate here. So that's just my thinking. What made me to go for C.
All right. See what the answer is. Implement TLS using a strong cipher suite and use digital signatures. Anybody else have a good explanation for this? Because I don't want to throw out needless stuff.
Not a good explanation, but a guess. So we see a keyword there, forgery.
Right. I'm on.
And to prevent forgery, you need something like a watermark. And that's where I'm going with the digital signature.
Like non-repudiation?
Right, but I think, and I'm on the same reasoning mindset. When I saw forgery, first of all, we all know it's the TLS, right? We know that encryption, that eavesdropping, that the TLS will support it. So that's a given. But the forgery helped me to appreciate that if they're forging, we need to stop that, and to combat that is a digital signature that will certify that action. So like that is the only thing that to me would address the forgery piece in all of the answer selections when I eliminate it.
So this would be one we'd have to sit here and take the question apart. The main part is forged assertions, which I would probably expressing as being something or someone else. Yes, sir.
So I checked just now, and TLS, it does provide authentication, confidentiality, and integrity. So why C and not B? Because in case of forged assertions, we want to, like, we are using digital signatures as per option C because we want to establish authentication from the sender side. So like, why not B, if somebody can answer that?
So the digital signature.
Yeah, I can,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I can jump in there for a little bit. I'm sorry, the gentleman answered, I think Kazim. With the forged assertion, the digital signature would handle any forgery. Digital signature would cover that so that no one else could sign it or give some erroneous type message that was sent. Once you check the digital signature, you know it came from the intended person who sent it, so it can't be forged. That's the only thing that would cover forgery. The TLS by itself wouldn't cover the forgery.
And if I can pick up on that also. All right, so the original was the CIA triad: confidentiality, availability, and integrity. And now with 2024, they've added the non-repudiation.
DAD? Okay, yeah, and
authenticity. And I just learned last week on the CC exam, which is the entry level, they've now included a sixth.
Right, non-repudiation and authentication.
Mm-hmm. Which it's saying forged assertions is where the digital signature aspect would come in. So that's why it wouldn't just be B alone. Does that help, Sarah?
But TLS uses asymmetric encryption. I mean, when you exchange the certificates and you use the other, like the recipients, public key to encrypt information, or you can use to provide, I guess, signatures as well, or is it just for encryption there?
Okay. So you're saying
that's
TLS,
why I'm confused.
You're saying TLS is already asymmetric and it covers.
Yes.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, if you can explain that.
Well, I'll reach out to Josh and see because he's the one. Well, I don't want it to sound like that. He I don't know where he gets the questions from.
That,
Go ahead.
that's really authenticating it, right? So you can have asymmetric, use asymmetric all day long, but in this question, they're asking for more of a authenticative. Like someone can't go in there and forge a signature. Someone can go in there and say, "I'm someone I'm not." So how do you immediately address that? You either digital sign it and repudiation, and that shuts that down. So like asymmetric alone does not say, "Hey, I'm doing it all." It can't, because if that's the case, we would have non-digital signature and non-repudiation. So there's add-ons to the asymmetric type thing to ensure that it comes from that person. Like some of the questions are, John wants to ensure that he's the one that signed the message. Well, then I would want John to encrypt it with digital signature right there before he sends it to me. I don't say, "Oh, just send it," because remember, public key is asymmetric. I wouldn't be like, "Oh, just send it." I'd have to have that add-on out of additional security, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I get it now. Because otherwise in TLS, we're just using it for confidentiality. We're only using the recipient's public key. But we need to use R to sign. So now I get it. Yeah, digital signature.
Correct. And then you'll find a lot of this is how a whole lot of add-on stuff. Like, you know how the internet initially was built not to be as robust as it is. So a lot of things doesn't make sense in our world. Like, well, why wouldn't it just do everything? It's asymmetric. It's also a lot of add-ons to ensure security. Like,
yes, Rebecca.
Yeah, I get it now. Thank you.
Sure.
Rebecca?
Oh, okay. So, digital signatures, I'm just going over my 11th hour CISSP book, and it says digital signatures are used to cryptographically sign documents. Digital signatures provide non-repudiation, which includes authentication of the signer and proof of the document's integrity. This means the sender cannot deny or repudiate signing the document. So, in another passage in that book, it says the only thing that digital signature does not provide is confidentiality, but it provides every other thing, and especially that it takes away deniability. So, if it comes out later that there's a problem with what you received or what was sent, the person who sent it cannot deny having done that. So that's why, again, we're always asked to pick the best of all the answers. They try fooling you with them looking alike, but which one encompasses everything? And that's why C is the only one.
Yeah, to add on to that, I would advise again, treat each question as you approach them, and by that I mean the key standout here. Why it's C? It's because it says wants to ensure that forged assertions will not be successful. If that wasn't in there, I think B would be the answer.
Correct.
I agree with that.
I just want to throw a little cheat sheet mind dump in here. This is going to throw a hook in this conversation, but a crook or whatever, a kink in the conversation. When you sign code, you are going to digitally sign it. It's going to be a digital signature. If it does not make sense, I can't get my head around it. But only thing is what Annette just read when she said, or Rebecca just read when she said that it signs and hash and it kind of like signs that has not been altered. So when you get to security development, or you get to that domain where they're doing software development, whenever they move it into code, it has to be digitally signed. So CISSP or IC Square is using that as a firm way to sign a document and seal and approve it. That's the mindset they're using it. So you're going to see that, and that's going to flip you over 2 times, 3 times, but just giving you something to be aware of.
Thank you, April.
And one more quick analogy just to drive it home. It just came to mind. I was watching Lord of the Rings, whatever. But back in those medieval times when they sent a letter, by horseback or whatever, they would take that wax and put their seal on it and seal that document, right? The seal and the wax is to prevent tampering and forging and sealing back of the document. Because if you break that seal and the other king receives it, he knows it's been tampered with, right? So I hope that analogy kind of helps. I don't know, it just came to mind.
That's a good analogy, because that's how they did it back then. They used their ring as their
That makes
signature,
sense.
and then the wax sealed it.
Mhm.
And once that wax was broken, it was no longer secure.
And not only that, you could not duplicate that ring, that seal on the ring. That's why the king only wears it, right? There's no duplication of that ring.
Correct.
Right. So you can't, I mean, you may come close, but so, but anyway, I hope that helps. So.
All right. Well, it's 8 o'clock. Those that need to leave, I understand. If anybody wants to stay, I'll go through the remaining 3 real quick. If you guys like, let me know.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah. Let's go.
Sounds good.
Yep, let's do it. Thank you, Cliff.
Lauren needs to send information about services she is provisioning to a third-party organization. What standards-based markup language should she choose to build the interface? Who wants to take a stab at their explanation? Or their reasoning, I should say, in their decision.
So I have a very limited reasoning, and everybody got to go on their own on this one. But I know SAML is not the correct answer, right? Because I know about that's federation, single sign-on. I know that. So I eliminated that. SOAP has to do with voice over IP. I don't see anything talking about VoIP IP, talking about third party. So I eliminated those 2 immediately. The C and D, I have absolutely no idea what the world that is, what they are, but I kind of remember something about third party being C. I have to do some research on why and what that is, but all I know is remembering third party was that SPML. So I have nothing other than some of what I know. I know research, some of it is education, and some of it's just memories. In this case, C was just memories for me.
All right. And just looking at them, the last 2 letters, ML, I'm going to say most likely mean markup language. Why Bravo, Sarah?
So I know it's not A. C and D, I have not heard of them. And since like there's no explanation, so I don't even know what they stand for. With B, because I know like there are some RESTful and SOAP APIs that has something to do with that. So it could be that. But again, it totally depends on what C and D are. So if C and D stand for something else, or they're just made up, then it could be B, because it's a type. I think it's a type of API or something, or how it tells how you exchange information using APIs. I don't know, something like that. Sorry, maybe I'm just not saying it right.
Rashan?
Yeah, so I chose C because I know that the P in SPML stands for provisional, something to do with provision, I guess.
All right.
So that's why I chose that. How I remember is this: SAML is a markup language used for authentication and authorization. I remember SPL by the word letter P, which stands for provision, and XACML I remember as A and C, which stands for access control, access control, if I'm not mistaken. So for that reason, I chose C.
Cool. I like that.
Because I'd get this answer. I'd
Yeah,
get this
sorry.
answer wrong.
Now I'm
probably.
sure it's C.
Yeah, now I'm positive. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't have, like, if I saw that XACML, now I know that access piece, if I see another question, I know that language. So great.
Right.
Thank you.
So anytime you see a question like this, if they talk about authentication and authorization together, we can go with SAML. Other than that, provision is for SPL, and AC stands for access control. I don't know what is X. I think X is extended or something. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is why I like these study groups, because we all have our own different ways to remember things. And sometimes hearing somebody else have come up with their ways, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
the trick being the and that's the thing. We also, even though this thing understanding is touted as what we must do, but there also is an aspect of memorization.
Yes.
The question is says it talks about services and provisioning, and that's what the S and P stand for. B, it's in C, the S is service, the P is provisioning, which are covered already in the question. If you look at B, I was a middleware administrator in DBA. So seeing B already there, it has nothing to do with the question. That's just a web app. So that removes B, and we know what SAML is. D would have thrown me off, but the S and the P makes it a C. The service provisioning there with the beginning SP, so service provisioning markup language. So that's the way that I looked at it. But yeah, it's this study group is awesome. Y'all, please, let's keep coming. Y'all, I don't know how I would do this exam without y'all here.
I do have a question, because I just heard this term for the second time today that you used, and I think I might know, but Rebecca, what is middleware? Is that like interfaces?
Oh, so you have your user, right? On the
Yeah.
presentation layer, you have your user. You come at the application from a web developer can either be front end. So what the user interacts with is the front end. And then there's the back end, which is the database or the engines that
The client server.
Yeah. So you have the client, which you interact with. The server can be, there's so many different servers. That's the back end. In between the front end and the back end, think your Apache. So what enables the communication between both the front end and the back end? That's where the middleware is. So your WebLogic server, your what's the one by IBM now? Oh, starts with a J. My brain is running fried up right now. But
But you're doing great.
so that's where middleware is, like Oracle Forms, all those things. The people who manage what you see and also enable that front end to speak with the back end. That's middleware application folks. So sometimes you, since the advent of DevOps, middleware, most places are being wrapped up or being consumed into DevOps, but it used to be standalone.
And from what you expressed to me, that reminds me of Citrix.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's so many different middleware, platforms out there.
But now I can relate to what you're expressing. It's the interface between the front end, the back end,
And
client server. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the web interface versus all the data on the server. So
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I learned something new again today. So, all right, let's see what the answer is, everyone. What happened to Citrix? All right, so SPML. And I'm trying to remember who came up with the explanation that gave us real good, and I'll just go with that. So, during a penetration test, Chris recovers a file containing hashed passwords for the system he is attempting to access. What type of attack is most likely to succeed against the hashed passwords? Boy, hashed passwords. All right. And, well, who wants to explain, Charlie, what is a rainbow table attack? What's included in it?
A mapping of passwords and their corresponding hashes.
Correct.
Why am I saying A then? I think I'm not ready for the exam yet.
Exhausted.
You are. You are. Trust me. You're gonna have days like that. But
yeah.
You know.
Who can
Sometimes
explain?
I just make the silliest mistakes. I have those days where I just ask myself that why am I choosing these answers?
Not to hold you up, Cliff, but real quick, and I'm glad you brought that up, Sarah, and to others on the call. One definitive thing that I went in that exam with: do not slip up on those gimme questions if you get them. Do not fib those up. Take those gimmies and make sure you accumulate as much as those that you know for sure that you know the answer to. And don't mess those up, because you need every little bit of correct answers that you get.
Yeah, but I think when you're preparing, you just start overthinking as well sometimes. Because then you see that the answer is pretty straightforward, but you were overthinking and you ended up choosing the wrong one.
Yeah. You're gonna have to calm your mind, basically, and just be confident with what you choose.
And that I've taken a lot of tests, and I've only failed one, which was certified ethical hacking. However, this one being as big as it was, I went in and I just told myself, remain calm, relaxed, everything's okay. Just sit there, take the test, focus, be collect. And yeah, so on these, who can tell me what a brute force attack is? Rebecca?
Slapping, or rather throwing everything that you can at the password. Trying to crack it with every word in the dictionary.
All right. So then all right, and for my own, what's the difference between that and a dictionary attack then?
Okay. Maybe I messed up on that.
No, and I'm not, I'm asking for my own because I believe a brute force, and I'll research it later. A brute force is alphanumeric.
No. So the difference is in brute force, you try all possible password combinations. For example, if you have 3-letter password, you would try all possible combinations of all. It could be upper, lowercase, whatever is like allowed or accepted by the system. Whereas in the dictionary attack, you're using like common passwords, I believe.
All
like
right.
generally kept like words or dictionary words or common passwords that people keep. So it's like a database of those passwords.
And what about for pass the hash?
I think I've read that in Kerberos, I guess, where the attacker captures the hash and tries to pass it off to the authentication server.
Okay. Roshan.
I think Roshan, yeah.
Yeah, just to add on what Sarah said, yeah, it's something like that. Like how we say, right? Whenever the passwords are saved in our authenticating server, they save it not in clear text but in hash format. So whenever we are trying to do the authentication, we are not actually sending the password but the hash of that password. So just when we learned earlier, right, something about collision. So sometimes what happens, MD5 or SHA or anything, right, hashing process, they can create a same kind of output. Let's not go there. What we see here, right, as rainbow table says that it already has a predefined hash values of all the known passwords, so to say. So instead of trying the password, if you can get the hash value of the password, and then the attacker use that hash value to authenticate, that is called pass the hash. I'm not sure if I was able to explain that, but you got it right. Instead of password, you use that hash value which is stored in the authentication server.
All right.
So yeah.
And I like how you took it even further than what I understood it. Because a rainbow table, I believe, has both the original password in clear text and the hash that goes with it.
Yes.
Where pass the hash is just the hash.
Just the hash.
And result recovery, I'm going to guess that's basically a hash that's been salted, but please correct me if I'm way out there.
I have not heard about this attack
I
before.
think we just threw that in there, to be honest.
You may have. So let's see what the answer is. Rainbow table attack, which is what I would have chosen. But if we look at the question, during a penetration test, Chris recovers a file containing hashed passwords for the system. So after learning what Roshan expressed, it almost seems like it should have been Bravo. Because it doesn't say anything. It just says a file containing hashed passwords. It doesn't say. Am I making sense what I'm trying to express?
Yeah, but it says what type of attack is most likely to succeed against the hash passwords.
There is two part of these questions actually. The real questions is asking what is the most likely attack, which is a rainbow attack.
Right. So good. Go on to 10 now.
I'm back. Do want to have I have a little comment about this rainbow attack. I'm sorry, guys. Stepped away. So I'm finding that it's interchangeable about the rainbow attack and the hash attack and the not the dictionary. Do you guys see those questions a lot when it comes to like the hash and rainbow? Those are the only questions that result in the rainbow attack. I'm not seeing that anywhere else.
Yes, you do have to know that they of all the 3 exams I took, they were on all 3 of them, in some form or fashion.
Okay.
Okay, one thing, Cliff, I want to add that it cannot be B, because if you read the first line, we have recovered a file containing the hashed passwords for the system that he's attempting to access. We only have access to the system. We cannot directly transmit. We do not have any channel to transmit the hash directly to the authentication server. So it cannot be B.
Yeah, and after Rashawn expressed that, all right. No, and that makes, thank you for clearing that up also. Thank you.
I think we should read the question at least 3 times. This is my takeaway from today's session.
All right, we ready for 10?
Yes.
The X500 standards cover what type of important identity systems? Helps if I take it off mute. April, why'd you choose Alpha?
Okay, so I know the only time I've ever read anything about X5, anything was 2 things. One, X509, which is digital certificate. That's just it. 509 is digital. But one time I was reading with Kerbos, it is the backing is X500 type of important. That's the identity piece of the system. And I researched and I thought I wrote it down. I thought it was saying something wrong, but the only 2 things that I know is the one is just 509, that's digital signature, and X500 deals with that Kerbos piece of identifying people in the system. So that's like something I just was in my memory. And trust me, guys, I researched what the heck was X500, and it all tied into Kerbos.
All right. Chris, why'd you choose Delta?
I believe that X500 does have to do with directory services.
All right.
And that's why I lean toward that.
Good. Let's see. Directory services, correct. LDAP. isn't that also, because that's, and I probably shouldn't even bring it up, going down a dirt road there.
No.
Yeah, that's why I chose D, because I remember this from like I remember reading this while I think it was kind of like mentioned along with the LDAP protocol where I remember reading about it. So that is why I chose D.
So I remember reading about it, but I thought it was Kerbos. Is Kerbos LDAP also? I know it's Active Directory.
Let me look.
I'm confused. So I stand corrected.
Because LDAP is Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, which is internal.
Correct.
And there's also X500. And there's similarities between X500 and LDAP.
Mhm.
And LDAP is a directory service protocol that runs over TCP and IP and has an associated API for writing internet directory service applications.
So is Kerbos active? I know that's Active Directory. So I'm trying to understand why D. Does it give reason underneath there? Just directory service is all it says.
That just reminded me of something else. I believe Kerberos is, let me check first.
Roshan, maybe you can comment. Why did you choose D? Perhaps we can
Yeah.
from your tips.
Okay, so see, as you said, right? Similarly, I remember two things: X500 and X509.
Yep.
So one is for digital signature. So we are not talking about that. So 500, it's associated with LDAP. I feel, April, what you have read, probably, maybe I'm wrong, but Kerberos has one component called KDC, right? So the KDC has two parts. One is TGT, the ticket granting, TGS, the ticket granting server, and
Yeah.
the AS, authentication server. So whenever we talk about authentication server, we are talking about directory services. And that directory services uses the protocol which is LDAP. LDAP is one of the protocols used for managing the directory services. So probably you might have read something like that, but it was
Yes.
about LDAP. Yeah, it was about LDAP. But I'm not sure whether Kerberos uses LDAP to fetch information from the authentication server. But even the given scenario, the X500 standard would actually be D, not Kerberos, because even if it's Kerberos using it, it's indirectly using it.
Got it. Okay. So it would be
I
directory.
hope that
Okay.
explains.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I will put that in my brain.
yeah, sure.
Because
Thank
The way that
by the
I'm
way.
thinking of it is, okay, the identity services being D would be Active Directory. Just as was mentioned, yeah, LDAP factors into that, but we don't see LDAP listed here. And Kerberos itself, I've been searching this textbook here, and I'm not seeing anything with the 500. So I'm not sure how or where they got the 500 being related to Kerberos, if it is, because it's not the entire book. I did a search on it online, and the only 500 I saw there was where they were trying to trick people in a question, but it was not spelled out. So
Okay.
I studied it in the official study guide. It was there.
yeah, but in the book itself, in Mike Chappell's book, do you happen to know where the X500 is?
I have the official study guide.
Yeah, the official study guide. That's
Oh,
what
wait, let me check.
Yeah,
And that's
give it to me now. If you remember any other time, you yeah, I like to have a definitive guide for these things. Because what I'm noticing is I think I've studied something and then I come across questions and it throws a wrench in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I find out I missed one thing. The one
Yep.
that I ignored that I just skimmed ends up being the one that's being used for asking a question.
Yes, the same here, because I was certain that that 500 was Kerber's. I think I might have even answered it like that on some of the practice exams. So I don't recall getting it wrong because I went back. So I will look myself, but now I will definitely think of it as that directory services.
Yeah, the search is not returning the results, but yeah, I'll look for it and let you know because I remember reading it in the guide.
I read it too.
Rebecca, do you have the electronic version of the study guide or just the text hard book? I'm just wondering how you search for it.
Yeah, I have, as I was stating last Tuesday, that I started this thing in 2020. So, and then life took over and I never quite bothered with it due to work constraints and all the rest of that. But I have the, what is this current version now? This is 10th version. I have the 8th version in my Kindle. And so many of the work, the content of the book, OSG 8 and 10 are just reused. He reused a whole lot of the stuff. So
yeah, it might not be in the 8th version though. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I'm looking at the 10th manual. I have it open here, but I can't seem to find it.
So I have the 9 version.
Yeah, I'll be searching. I'm in the 10th. It's here. I have it open, but I'm not sure. It might be in here. I will dig. So I will go to at length to answer that question. I've already put a note for myself. Why are all the other options wrong?
Right.
And try it. Yeah.
I'll also say this as well. I'm sorry. But these exams, to be honest, I'll let you guys know. I've read this OSG twice, front to back. Yes, that's how, and that's not the only book, right? But what I will say is that the exams will ask off type questions. That's probably like a footnote or something like that, and you're wondering where it came from. But you have to read the book in its entirety, even including those little snippets and things that they add in there, little notes and things like that you don't think really applies. They'll ask questions from that.
Also, if you look at the last page of the official study guide, you can get the online version by signing up your book through Wiley.
Yeah, but that's the questions, right? Not the, can you look at the book itself?
No, that's the questions, Cliff. That's just the questions.
And I have the audio. I have the book, the hard copy, and I have the audio copy. So I find that I retain more if I actually read it in the book. The audio is just for when I'm in the car driving. But so does that you have, Rebecca, the audio and the hard copy?
No, the audio, I'm not sure if it's the full audio, but he has a LinkedIn presence. This whole CISSP training, I posted it in here. I used my public library access to get his video, which has
on LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah, I'm doing that. I have that. Yeah, that's very good. I'm doing that now.
Yeah. However, what I was referring to as the electronic version is when you go to buy the book, you can either buy the electronic one that you just use on a browser. I had the 8 version. I had it in the electronic, and so I can actually. I think that one I bought both electronic. I'm just blowing money. I bought broke.
Me too. I've been doing that since I started this. I've been blowing.
Yeah, it helps. It helps to have the electronic version, because when you hit stuff like this, it's easier to go into Kindle and do a search for the phrase. And if it's there, you find it, versus searching and leafing through. I might end up doing the same thing. I'm buying the damn electronic one too, because you can't, it takes a while to find what you're looking for in the manual, because the appendix doesn't necessarily have everything as an online search would. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And
I'll pay
LinkedIn.
the next class. I'll provide what my research came up with.
Okay, so
Well, I
guys,
just searched his video on LinkedIn Learning for X500, and there's nothing there, because you can search the whole, everything he talks about, the transcript.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, there's nothing he talks about for X500. Yes, Annette.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying not to think I'm so screwed. I just had to pass this damn thing. Yeah. So all the folks I started out with who held on to it are done. And I'm starting from scratch again.
I hear you, Rebecca. I understand. Life happens.
Mhm.
What do you call it? So I use X509 at work. Like, the thing is, I get, so what I do in my job is I resolve problems, right? Like, I get tickets and I resolve whatever problem they have. I work like in the DevSecOps sector. But the thing is, I get tickets that I cannot, log into my account because of X509 certificate, right? So what happens with them is that their account gets disabled. And then it goes and they try logging in, it checks their certificate, it does, and it either says that it's expired or revoked. That's the message that they get, and then they get an X509 account disabled. So I have to go in there and actually send them like a link to recertify, like it's through military.cac.com, and they go in there and they actually essentially reinstall like their certificate to be able to authenticate. And that's how I resolve their issue with, whenever I get, those tickets.
No, thank you.
Yeah, there's another one right now that I'm working with. I mean, I have several certificate issues that I'm kind of like working on. There's one that where they decided to install Shaw 286, this company, and they broke the encryption. Like they now, so we, our server will they'll do a nuance check. Like, they have to have nuance, for us. But with the Shaw 286 on their area, the way they have it configured on their site, it doesn't accept the nuance. So they're, I mean, so they can't authenticate when it comes to a VPN. They cannot they only can access certain levels of security. They can authenticate to the higher levels because it requires that. So we're trying to work with their networking team, trying to find out, a happy middle. They want us to change our encryption on our side. We're like, no, we can't do that because we work with the 80 plus, what do you call it, contractors, right? And they all use the same encryption that we do, right? I mean, it's all the same. We're not going to change it for one person, for one company. So, so we're just trying to come up with the happy middle. But for right now, they can't access higher levels of security because of that. Because they just decided without saying anything, we're going to go to the latest and greatest, and we're just going to go ahead and change our encryption. Right. So that's one of the issues that I'm having with another contractor. They're having kind of the same issue, and I think that they also broke their encryption in some way. And they're kind of also not able to authenticate. So yeah, it's been happy times. But yeah, I'm learning about encryption, right? But yeah, that's one of the ways that we use. And my boss was saying that, yeah, when they go to authenticate, it's either going to tell them, your check their certificate, it's either revoked or expired. and they're gonna get that X509 error message. So I don't want to. I know it's late already, guys. So just wanted to throw that in there.
But Annette, when you say nuance, you mean the software company or maybe the?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. It's like like the no, like you know how they either have to have like a no digit. I'm kind of still trying to learn that, like what's exactly going on with them. We're working with their network team, and I'll let you guys know once I find out what's going on their end. But I know that they upgraded their encryption, at least that. And once I find out, I'll let you guys know. That way we can learn from it, right? Because it's pretty interesting. But that's kind of what I just found out, right? You know, recently.
Yeah, security, networks, IT. It's to me, it's all fascinating, and there's so many different intricacies.
Yeah, the way they configure stuff.
I just posted a URL there where it explains the difference. So just like Annette was saying, 509, when you think 509, think certificates. And when you think 500, oh, my post didn't fully finish it. So X500 is a directory service.
Yeah.
I missed in the while. I forgot to type the 500. So 509 is a standard that defines certificate formats and the fields for public keys, while the 500 is a directory service. So that would be why the answer is D.
It ties into like LDAP and all that. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know. Okay. Do we have any? Was that the last question?
Let's see. Yes, it was.
Oh,
So, and I don't have his link to share,
okay.
or so right now I don't know. It will be studying Tuesday, but if anybody wants to give him suggestions and maybe let me know, so I can like maybe prepare a little bit better too. Because yes, April. Oh, all right.
No, that was an accident.
All right. Or if anybody has some suggestions for Tuesday right now that I can share with him, let me know what you guys would like to work on Tuesday.
Thank you, Cliff. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I hope I didn't confuse everybody.
No, appreciate it.
Good class. Thank you. Thanks.
Mhm.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Cliff.
Have a great day.
Thank
Appreciate
you. Bye.
You
Yeah.
too.